Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today we're going to talk about a program that occurred at Novolex to help them kind of transform their business end to end, including finance, supply chain, manufacturing. It was a very important program and one that drove a lot of benefits for Novolex. And today I'm honored to have Don Ray, the Vice President of Manufacturing, who was the program leader and drove the program, as well as Radha Sudarajan, who was the business transformation manager. She owned a lot of the technical aspects of the program and was a key leader in driving the success of this. So let me start a little bit with you, Don. If you could talk a little bit about, the importance of this program to Novolex and, how you initiated it in the very beginning.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. Let me start with a little bit about who Novolex is. Novolex is someone that is a company that most people have not heard of, but at the same time, most people have touched one of our products in the last week or so. Novolex is a leader in packaging innovation, choice, and sustainability, and we manufacture products in the paper category, plastic category, both flexible and rigid, serving customers in the food, retail, health, and industrial markets. And Novolex as a company had grown primarily through acquisition, and so we found ourselves in a state where we had multiple, I think at the time of kicking off this project, 14 different ERP systems, which made it very difficult for us to organize our data, to manage the business across the different business units with multiple ERP systems. And so the objectives of the program were to combine under a single ERP, obviously, to standardize our finance and accounting processes with a single source of consolidated reporting, improve our inventory accuracy with real-time production reporting, efficient warehouse processes. We wanted to enable plant maintenance and asset care capabilities, and have a single consolidated and integrated order management process.
Thank you, Don. One of the things we've always said around programs is the three most important things right up is solution it right, staff it right, and start it right. Can you talk a little bit about how you started the program and how the program was organized for success?
Sure. I think one of the things that made this program successful is the commitment from our senior leadership to staff it right and start it right, just as you said. So the executive steering committee was our C-suite, right? The very highly supported by our CEO and our CFO. In fact, the CFO, who I reported directly to, was very, very engaged on a daily basis with the project. So having that support at the highest level was very important. The second thing is we staffed the project with some of the best and brightest from the business. So we were organized with functional implementation leaders, which were folks from the business, the best and the brightest from the business, who were pulled from their jobs and were assigned full time to this project for the 2.5 years that we undertook this. So they weren't distracted by the ongoing business. All their positions were backfilled, and they were dedicated to this program during the length of it.
Yeah, thank you. I recall back you talk about your CFO and his engagement as the sponsor. I mean, this was a guy who was literally in the plants at Go Lives, walking and talking the floor with people. Radha, one of the first things, in the program you got to do is tackle the global template and kind of get that established. And that becomes the foundation for everything downstream. If you don't really get that right, you're kind of always making up for it as you progress. Can you talk a little bit about how long it took to get that global template established?
So we had a dedicated team both from the Novolex as well as TCS in a war room settings, meaning the whole team will be in the floor. This was very effective for us to design all the end-to-end processes. We completed the overall global design and build and initial round of testing in about 11 months. The first month, we mostly did planning and prep and organizing ourselves. The second few weeks, we started with SAP Model Company as our baseline for all the end-to-end processes. By running through those end-to-end processes, we identified our gaps. After the gaps were identified, we went through a round of strategic design decision making that included our leadership team, who guided us on how we want to design the solution. Then over the next 4 months, we finalized the global template. So we have two major business lines in Novolex. One is the performance, and the other one is the food and packaging industry. So we built the global template when we initially built the global template to accommodate both the business lines. That took us about 4 months. The next 5 months, we built the actual template, configured it, tested it, and it was ready for the business to give an overview. So overall, it took us 11 months to complete the global design for us. This global design included new SAP HANA features, Fury First as our user interface strategy, embedded analytics as our reporting strategy, and we completely modernized our warehousing, the whole warehousing process, including RF labels and all the operations related front end tools for the user.
I mean,
Right.
this was truly a team effort, and you guys are a gold star example of the power of adopting the capabilities of SAP. So it was very impressive. Now, one of the other challenges, once you kind of get that template and you deploy it, we didn't do a big bang. There was some staged go lives, and so now you had the challenge of how do I deploy this solution while continuing to improve the deployed solution, because the world doesn't sit still and wait for you. Can you talk a little bit about how you addressed that?
Yes. So as you know, these days the innovation cycle, it's shorter and shorter. Every day, every quarter, it becomes shorter and shorter. So it was very critical for us to incorporate the innovation initiatives as a part of our business transformation approach. So how we designed and implemented this approach is we partnered with TCS and we built a model called Perpetual Business Transformation Approach that governs the solution improvements while we are doing new rollouts. And there are three major parts of this business transformation, perpetual business transformation approach. The first one is establishing our own internal COE, which is who are responsible. The team was responsible for managing the global template, as well as updating the global template as and when these innovations are rolled out. The next major thing is the same as the program. We had a very engaging C-suite sponsorship on continuous improvement. They support us on making the decisions and rolling out those. The most critical one is we established a rigorous change control board team with a weekly cadence. So those are the three pillars that made us possible to continue to improve the solution as we continue to roll out.
Yeah, thank you, Rod. And the seeds for that strategy of not viewing the go live as completion, but just one part of the journey. And as you mentioned, the perpetual transformation offering of TCS and helping you drive the return on investment even further beyond just the initial go live, I think is a best practice that was clearly evident on the Novolex project. What were the benefits at the end of this? So what did you see in your business? What did you guys get as a result of this effort of implementing this program?
So I'll start from the business side, and while it wasn't immediate, right, there was a learning curve for the folks after we went live. What they found once they were able to kind of let go of the old way of doing things is that their day-to-day job became easier. They had better access to information through which they could make better decisions. Everything was they had a single source of information, so they knew where to go to get what they needed. And they had very well-defined processes, whether it was on the shop floor, whether it was in finance, whether it was in the warehouse. Their processes were defined and documented, and so they had a reference point that they could go back to make sure that they knew how to accomplish what they needed to accomplish.
Very good. Thank you, Don. Everyone likes to know the challenges that you face. What were the big challenges you had to face, and how did you kind of address those? So Radha, if you want to take first
Yeah.
shot.
Sure. The biggest challenge, as we all know, is COVID-19, right? So it hit us right when we were on the high of the program. So immediately our leadership, we decided to leverage this no travel zone or time to upgrade our systems from 1709 to 1909. That opened up additional opportunities for us to bring in more innovations into the program or into the solution. That's one big challenge that we face. Other than that, as a part of rollout, you always have the same set of challenges. Data, it's always the most challenging one. How many hour of time that you spend on finalizing or cleansing the data, the last minute changes and decisions we make impacted us in a major way.
In addition to, as Radha mentioned, using some downtime to do an upgrade, we also put together we ended up doing our last go live in the midst of COVID-19. So we still had travel restrictions going on, et cetera. And we're able to develop a new rollout go live model that was largely remote. Now, we had folks that were on the floor during the go live, folks that stayed out there for 8 straight weeks, not traveling back and forth. But it was a much smaller group than we had at our previous go live. So instead of having 30 plus people between Novolex and TCS at the site during go live, we had 8 to 10. But we had a huge amount of support that was virtual, both, again, Novolex as well as TCS, onshore and offshore, so we had 24/7 coverage. And being able to develop that revised go-live model during travel restrictions and COVID-19, I think was a huge accomplishment of the group, but definitely a challenge that we had to face. The other challenge, I talked earlier about the fact that the project team was dedicated full-time and completely 100% engaged in the project. But a challenge for us was understanding that there was a significant amount of time required from the folks that were in the field, that were going to be the users of the project. And they weren't able to be dedicated 100% to this project. In fact, they were dedicated 100% to their ongoing day job. And so working with them to find time, to carve out time to dedicate to these go lives was a challenge. One that the folks in the field did a fantastic job of figuring out how to do, but it was just something we had to work through to find the time, because it does take a lot of time, as everyone knows, to pull this off, and carving out the time from them was certainly a challenge.
Well, thank you, Don. Over the course of a 30-year career, there are certain projects that stick in my mind, and ones that I constantly bring up in discussions, either with other people who are starting journeys similar to Novolex, or, looking to leverage S4 as the underlying platform. And Novolex is certainly one of those that I know I constantly refer back to when I'm talking to people. And it's because of the best practices you guys followed in the implementation. I mean, through today's discussion, we talked about the involvement of your CFO and, hands-on, active out there in the field during go lives, walking the plants, the leadership of the two of you, and, representing the business and representing IT and the technical solution, the focus on freeing people up to make this a priority in your business. And probably first and foremost, the great partnership that you formed with us in SAP to do this as a team, right? It takes everybody to do a big program like this. And you guys are certainly bearing the fruits of that today. And so thank you for joining us today and sharing some of this with us. Hopefully it's been very informative to other people who are sitting here watching us and joining us today. And so thank you. Don, and then Radha, any final comments you'd like to make?
Well, I'll talk a little bit, as you just said, about the partnership. We absolutely could not have done this without the partnership we had with TCS and with SAP, and it was a very strong partnership. The folks that we worked with from TCS, they're people on that team, even though I'm no longer involved in SAP, moved on to a new role that I still keep in touch with, and count on if I have a question about something. It was a great partnership, and one that I'll treasure for the rest of my career.
echoes John's comment. We had the best team working with us and for us, so that's a big part of how we are so successful with this program.
Great. Thank you, Radha. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.